Welcome to In the Zone across West Michigan. Once again, your host, Casey Ford. Joining me this afternoon, one of my good friends, former baseball teammate, one football player at Granville High School, and now the current coach of Muskegon Orchard View, Mr. Joe Tanis, joining me right here on In the Zone across West Michigan. Joe, welcome. How are you, sir?
I'm doing excellent. Thank you for having me.
I'm glad that you're here because there's so much, and I guess we should go back with like a backstory on all this. Joe Tanis and I, as his fat melon is taking my screen, my screen. Joe and I were friends from all the way back with the Grand Rapids Mustangs, playing travel baseball. That was before travel baseball got big. And I don't know what they saw in you, but they thought you were a baseball player. But Joe and I have been friends and competitors on and off the baseball field. When I was at Jenison, he was at Granville. Then Joe was playing football and played football at Olivet. Was a coach at Northern Michigan University on Bernie Anderson's staff. Now Chris Ostrowski, and I know you know Chris because he was part of the staff too.
Yep.
But let's go back to this a little bit. You were playing some big-time ball at Olivet and got to play some big teams. I guess, how did you get the transition from playing football to wanting to be a football coach?
I think I always wanted to be something in the sports, do something related with sports. And about 10th grade, I realized I wasn't that good at baseball. I thought I was going to be a professional baseball player, and that harsh reality sets in. And then I realized, I got to do something that's with sports. So I played for some tremendous coaches, Coach Sigler at Granville High School, and then his father at Olivet College. So those guys kind of inspired me and really, kind of gave me the bug to, that's what I wanted to do with my life and be like them. And
now, how does a guy like you, going from playing football at Granville and playing at Olivet, how do you get your start in the coaching business? Because I know a lot of people like myself, I also realized I wasn't going to be a baseball player, and I got into sports broadcasting, and obviously people who've been watching and been following me throughout the years know I got to do International Basketball League, the Rampage, and the Michigan Wolverines. So I guess my transition was a little bit easier, but how does a guy like you, going from player, how do you get into the coaching ranks?
I think it's very similar to what you did. You found an opportunity, you found a place that would take you and let you hang out and kind of learn your way. And I did the same thing at Olivet College. I had asked Coach Sigler if I could help out, coach on his staff the last year after I finished playing. And then he ended up retiring, and the new head coach allowed me to stay on, so I was able to stay on that staff for 3 years. And just try to learn and be around those guys and see what it takes. But I think it's about getting out and being aggressive, knowing what you want to do, and researching it and finding a way to find somebody to let you hang out with them.
Now, going back to more of the backstory, so we're sitting in a bar in Little Lake, and if you're not familiar with the Upper Peninsula, here's the Lower Peninsula. That's the Upper Peninsula. And right around this area right here is like the Marquette area, because up here is like Copper Harbor and stuff. We're in this tiny town of Little Lake, and it's called Full Throttle at the time. Now it's just called The Throttle. And I'm sitting there, and I'm kind of haggling the waitress that I knew. And Joe Tanis is sitting like 3 or 4 stools away from me. I don't even know who he is. He hears me talk, and he goes, "Is that Casey Ford?" And I look over, I'm like, "Is that Joe Tanis? You were a coach at Northern Michigan University." I didn't even know about it, but you went from Olivet to Northern. What was the transition like there? Because obviously Northern, a little bit different atmosphere and a little bit different expectations.
Yeah, so I made a stop at a high school as a defense coordinator down in Kalamazoo, before that at Galesburg Augusta High School. And then I kind of coached with the Kalamazoo Explosion arena team for a year in between there. So going up to Northern, it was a last-minute thing. My wife and I had just been married. We had been married about 3 months, 26, 27 years old, making pretty good money. And got an opportunity to go up to Northern Michigan, met those guys down at Nashville, Tennessee at the American Football Coaches Association. Knew a mutual friend. It's all about who you know. Interviewed for a job, didn't get it. They kind of had a guy in mind, but then 2 weeks before the season started, they called and said they had an opening. And It was like $5,000. Me and my wife took about a $50,000 pay cut and moved up to the UP in a U-Haul with no house as we're driving up there and no job other than that $5,000. And my wife got lucky, got a job as a parapro in the high school the next day.
The Gwynn High School.
The Gwynn High School.
Yes.
The Gwynn Model Towner. So, it was a great experience. And then getting up there, it was a big adjustment for me. I was coaching,
Things are a little bit slower up there for people that aren't familiar with the Upper Peninsula. But things are a little bit slower. They don't go as a fast pace.
Yeah, definitely. Growing up in Granville, Hudsonville, Jenison,
Yeah.
Greater Grand Rapids area, it's a big change.
Yeah.
But all of that kind of prepared me for the little bit slower life. But, it was a big learning curve getting there. I was coaching the offense side of the ball, which I wasn't really used to. I was a video coordinator, running $50,000 software that I didn't know how to run, and nobody there really knew how to run it either. So, I had to kind of train myself, but it was a great experience. I learned a lot.
Going back to my radio days, I got a chance to interview you up in those film rooms. I guess, how is this different? Being here face-to-face on television, besides how sexy we are,
Yeah.
how is this different than doing a radio interview with me?
It's a little bit different knowing you got a camera on you. That's the big thing. I was probably made for radio,
Yeah.
so not TV as much, but, it's different, but it's still a great experience. I remember doing as a GA with you on the radio show, and our offense coordinator, now the head coach at Northern Michigan, Coach Ostrowski, is like, you're the only GA in America that's been on the radio, and you've been on twice, and he hadn't been on it at all yet, so he was a little upset with that.
That's all right. Chris Ostrowski, Northern Michigan football coach, and I have a good relationship with him, and he's still up there. And Bernie Anderson, you got in with Bernie, and the thing with you is you had to learn the offensive side of the ball, and you got to work with what I feel was a tremendous quarterback with Carter Kopak. I guess, how is it adjusting from defense to offense and running backs and things like that, and getting on the same system?
I was up there for 2 years. I got to learn two different offenses. We were a pro-style offense the first year under Jeff Duvendeck, who's now the head coach at Culver Stockton, down south a little bit. And then, I got to learn the spread offense under Coach Ostrowski. So it was a big change learning it. But I kind of brought the defensive mindset, learning from that side of the ball over to the offense. So it was a great experience. And I think it's important, especially when you're young coaching, to learn both sides of the football, so to get a greater understanding of the game.
Joe Tanis, head coach of Muskegon Orchard View, joins me right here on In the Zone across West Michigan. We're going to get to Muskegon, just trying to give the backdrop of how things happen here. And radio, same thing. It's pretty much about who you know and the connections and the breaks that you make yourself. Now, you leave Northern Michigan University, but before you leave Northern, one of those years that you're at Northern, you literally went through like 5 different quarterbacks in one season. And like that last game, I think you guys were even playing a running back at the quarterback position. Yeah. How does that affect a team mindset when you don't even have a quarterback? A true quarterback at the NCAA level.
Yeah, it's obviously very difficult. I think you saw Baylor go through that last year. And in the bowl game, obviously they got a month to prepare with a bowl game, so it's a little bit different. But you just have to find a way. Yeah, I mean, you can't make excuses. You got who you have.
You actually won a couple of those games too.
We did, yeah. We were doing some single wing type stuff almost at times, spread, trying to be unique, trying to be creative, find ways to manufacture some yards. We had a great defense coordinator, Randy Ari, another college head coach right now down at Concordia in Chicago.
He was at Saginaw Valley, and also he was with you at Northern Michigan University as well.
Yep, national champion player on the Northern Michigan team, and yeah, he was very successful at Saginaw Valley. Him and Brian Kelly used to have some great battles back in the day. So, it's when you don't have a quarterback, you don't have a true leader, and that's kind of tough.
Well, then you transitioned to become the head coach at Muskegon Orchard View. So you go from literally Granville, Olivet, Kalamazoo, way up to the Upper Peninsula to come back down a lot closer to home. I know you have a family, your mom and dad still live in the Granville area, but how does that come about? Was it a job opening? Did they contact you? You contact them? How does that work?
So the job was posted. I interviewed at a couple places in Ann Arbor. Was a finalist for some of those. Didn't get them.
Like Ann Arbor Pioneer? Or?
Pioneer and Skyline.
Okay.
and then the Muskegon Orchard View job was open. You know, growing up in Grand Rapids, I knew a little bit about Orchard View. I always went to the state finals. You know, John Shillito was rolling it up there for about 14 years, and he kind of put the program on the map there. So I knew about Orchard View, but I didn't truly know about it. But I knew it would be a great place, a place that I would want to be, blue collar, community, and a place with great tradition and high expectations.
Joe Tanis, head coach of Muskegon Orchard View, joins us right here on In the Zone across West Michigan. As it's an off season for him, but it's not really an off season because you do a lot of things. Before we get into that, you're coach of Muskegon now, and Muskegon is a little bit different because you have the Muskegon Big Red. Then you have Orchard View, and I don't want to leave any schools out here, but there's also like Muskegon Heights, and I know there's some private schools where recruiting happens. And how difficult is a place like Muskegon to play football?
You know, I think it's probably the best place in the state really to play. It's a blue collar town. Everybody knows everybody, and it's football is king there. You have a ton of tradition. Obviously, the Big Reds are the winningest program in state history.
At Old Hackley Field, too.
At Old Hackley Field, which is an awesome place to play. And then you have Muskegon Catholic, obviously, has won 3 straight state titles.
Yeah.
Pretty much everybody around us has won at least 1 state title, including ourselves. Orchard View's played for 3 state championships. There's a school right to the east of us that's won a couple. And then you got Mona Shores, who's, you know, completely flipped that program around, doing some good things over there. And so it's a great area to be for high school football.
Now, things have changed, obviously, since we played in the OK Red. I was in the Jenison area. You're in the Granville area. Muskegon Mona Shores was in the red at that point. West Ottawa was in the red at that point. It's not always like that. Jenison's bounced around a little bit. They're now in the white, I believe. You have your own competition now. So and how often does Orchard View get bounced around from conference to conference, and how does something like that work?
So yeah, we're constantly every year.
Green now, the silver?
No, we are called in the Lakes Activities Conference. So it's been
like
constant. Yeah, it's been, you know, a constant fluctuation for us. So we've added teams. We've lost Fremont off our schedule, lost Fruitport, lost Spring Lake, lost Newaygo, lost Grant since I've been up there. So our schedule is going to be the most difficult in school history this year.
What is your schedule now?
So we open up at Grand Valley State week 1 on Saturday, playing Montague, another great program just north of Muskegon. Won a couple state titles up there. Pat Collins is a heck of a coach. They do a great job. And then we go week 2, we play Reese Puffer, an old rival, but they're twice our size. Once again, another team that's won a state title. And then we play Benton Harbor down in Benton Harbor, who has Elliot Uselak as a head coach, who was a head coach at Western Michigan University, worked for Belichick with the Cleveland Browns. So he got that program turned around in 2 weeks. That's how good he is. And then we play Muskegon Catholic actually week 3. So we start out right out the gate, and then we actually play a game over in Detroit at Hamtramck Field, which I'm excited about. So our schedule takes us all over the place this year, but we're excited for the challenge.
Joe Tanis, head football coach at Muskegon Orchard View, joins us on In the Zone across West Michigan. Casey Ford, you see I'm wearing the UP football shirt. We're going to get into that in just a little bit because I really feel that the talent of the UP is kind of underrated, and you've seen that with Ishpeming, especially in Division 7, what they've been able to do in the state championship games, winning pretty much a dynasty there. I mean, what Ishpeming's able to do. A couple state titles now. But before we get into that, you, head coach, want to make your own statement. You want to put your staple on this team. How do you go about changing the culture and changing things to getting the players to do what you want to do and not reverting back to the old habits?
Yeah, that's probably the most difficult thing, changing the culture. I don't think there's a substitute for having a plan, having tremendous energy, and going to work, rolling up your sleeves, and doing it every single day. You know, I think my wife said the other day that, you know, it's not even football season yet, and I have football activities 6 or 7 nights a week or days. So whether we're doing coaches meetings or position meetings, lifting. So
how difficult is it to get players in the weight room these days? Because I know not everybody likes doing and putting in the work to get there.
Yeah. So when we first got there that first summer, I got hired right before the season. we were getting 4 kids going out to the beach, getting kids off the beach, kid coming in covered in sand, trying to drag them in there, find people in there. So now we average, that first summer we were getting 5, 8 kids at times, and now we average probably over 40 some a day, plus some kids have the BFS class. But it's a little more difficult because we don't have a coach in the building at any level. So I'm currently substitute teaching there. So that this year I'm kind of back in the building, and that makes a big difference.
Joe Tanis, head coach of Muskegon Orchard View, joins us right here on In the Zone across West Michigan, former Granville Bulldog, current head coach. Let's stay with that a little bit because you want to implement your own system. You're a defensive guy. You go to Northern, you learn the offensive side of the ball. You're all supposedly a well-rounded head coach. Now, 2 seasons ago, you're 5-4. Last year, you go 3-6. What changed?
I think I have a bunch of excuses for it. Really. But, we've gone back and kind of looked at what changed. I think we've identified those issues, and we fixed them, I feel, and we're going to continue to fix them going forward. So, after 2 years, we felt we were real close. We're 5-4, like you said. We only had 4 seniors on that team. We had 18 coming back the next year, 18 seniors. Those 4 players were tremendous players. But even more so, we identified those guys early, only being 4 of them. All 4 were college-level players. And we identified those guys early, and they were able to lead the team for an entire offseason. I felt like I didn't do a great job developing leadership last year. And I took that for granted maybe a little bit. And so, I think it came back to bite us a little bit at times because we faced some adversity early on. And, if you need strong leadership, and it can't just come from the coach.
You talk about leadership. When you look at your team, how do you identify which guy has the it factor? Because there's a difference between the it factor and just being cocky. How do you know the guy that talks smack, the guy that sits there and he's in your ear all the time? How do you tell the difference between the guy that has it and the guy that just talks it?
So, I think there's a bunch of different kind of leaders. You don't have to be a vocal leader,
okay.
But I'm looking for guys that prove their commitment to the program. Guys that show up every single day, put in the work, and do that. And I feel we have a couple of those kids this year that are tremendous leaders. Their families and parents have done a great job raising them, and we work with them, and they make our life a lot easier when you have those kids. But if you don't have the leaders in your program, it's on you as a coach. I get really angry when I hear coaches complain, we don't have any leadership in our program, blah, blah, blah. I think that's on the coach to develop that. It's not leadership is not an accidental thing. It's an intentional process. So we work with our kids very hard. Our big thing this year is event plus response equals outcome. Kind of stole that from Urban Meyer. And
it's not stealing, it's borrowing.
Yeah, borrowing. So, and he stole that from somebody, borrowed it from somebody else. But that's the big thing. We're focusing on our responses. We can't control the event that happens to us. We can't necessarily control the outcome, but we control how we respond to that event. So we teach the kids how to respond and the process and the proper process of having a big response to create the best possible outcome there is.
Joe Tanis joins us right here on In the Zone across West Michigan, head football coach at Muskegon Orchard View, what we call as an off season. Now, your wife brought up that you're not football season, but you're doing activities 6 out of the 7 days. You actually get something to do something very cool not everybody gets to do either. Jerry DiNardo, one football coach. He's on the Big Ten Network all the time, was football coach at Northwestern. What's going on with him?
So Jerry DiNardo, he ran the option in college for Colorado under Bill McCartney when they were the national champions in 1990. And then, he's done kind of some of the stuff we want to do at the highest level and had success with it. So one of my high school teammates, Power High School and all that kind of stuff, he worked at Big Ten Network a couple of years ago, was able to get an email from him, shot Jerry DiNardo an email, asked him if he'd be willing to help us with what we're trying to do. And so I talked to him the other day on the phone. He was great. He's going to his 2 houses and collecting all of his old films right now, and next Wednesday he's going to actually send them to me. So he's going to give me a bunch of his old films. I'm going to watch them, and then we're going to meet up and probably go down to the Big Ten headquarters there in Chicago and sit and talk football for a day.
Is there such a thing as watching too much film and trying to implement too much?
I don't think there's a such thing as watching too much film.
Okay.
But I think there is definitely a problem with trying to implement too much.
Okay.
You know, I think that's one of the biggest things coaches, you know, fight. Everybody wants to kind of be that guy and do new stuff and be creative, and you know, so I think you got to find who you are, your personality, identity. And on defense, we're Michigan State, so you know, we go to Michigan State. We spend a lot of time with their staff and going to their practices and watching their films specifically, because they're one of the top defenses in the nation for, you know, quite a while now. You know, and they're consistent. So I think you got to find identity, and then you just find your system and find ways to tweak it and make it better.
Joe Tanis, being the head coach at Muskegon Orchard View, obviously you have certain responsibilities. You talk about developing talent and developing players, but you know you win or lose from the quarterback position. The quarterback is really an extension of the coach. Who's your quarterback? What are some of the things that you're trying to teach this man?
Well, that's who our quarterback is a $1 million question in Muskegon right now. So we started a kid a couple years ago named Jaden Day, a freshman, tremendous kid, 4.0 student. Has never missed a workout. You know, I don't think I've met another person, honestly, in my life like him. So he's been our quarterback as a freshman and sophomore, and started for us. And this year, we'll see, he'll be a junior. He hasn't grown as much as we were hoping he was going to. He's a big body kid now. He's 5'10", 190. So he's pretty thick and strongest kid on our team right now, actually. So, you know, is he going to be our quarterback? You know, I'm not going to say. We have another kid who's done a great job, Sam Mitchell, who's been a quarterback all the way coming up. Jaden started playing quarterback in 8th grade. And we kind of put him there because of the leadership qualities, his work ethic. And I wanted him to be an extension of the coach. So, and Sam's done a great job, and, you know, he's kind of a natural quarterback a little bit more. So we're going to have probably those two guys in the backfield, and we'll probably be a little bit unique, you know, with our ability to do some stuff with multiple guys that are able to throw the ball.
Now, one of my good friends, Leroy Hackley, athletic director at Muskegon Orchard View now. Obviously, you know Leroy a little bit, and he's a guy that was one of my baseball coaches, and I'm going to try not to make myself feel old or him even older, but Leroy, when he was 11 years old, great personality, always rah-rah guy pumping you up. What's he like working with as an AD?
He's awesome. I mean, he's tremendous. I'm very blessed to be able to work for him. He worked with my high school coach, Sigler, at Jenison. So now he's at Orchard View. He became our interim AD right before the fall this past year. So he's still working as our AD currently. And he's a great guy to work for. I mean, he's just a good human being. He's honest. He's what you want. He has expectations. He communicates them clearly to you, which I think is important, so you know where you stand. And so I'm just very grateful to work for somebody, because AD can make or break a whole program.
Working with Coach Sigler and having him as your coach, both Siglers, by the way, going up to Northern Michigan, how much from all the coaching that you have, do you implement that into your system? Because obviously you've learned a lot. How do you know, I guess, what works best for you? Because I think of Granville at that time when you were playing, was that Buddy Rivera or was that the wing T?
Buddy was a few years behind me.
Okay.
So Dan Start, who is actually just
Yes.
coming up from Florida, he's going to be the head coach at Spring Lake High School. So we're actually not going to play each other, but he was one of my quarterbacks. And then Kyle Finch was we played travel baseball with him.
Yep.
Was our other quarterback.
Pitcher at Aquinas College as well.
Yes, yep. Great player, big, strong arm. So, yeah.
What do you learn from Sigler? I guess, do you learn what you learned in your high school days and try to implement that? And how much has changed from your high school days to now back in high school and running that?
You know, I think it comes down to, you know, I use Coach Sigler a lot. Really, the thing I got from him is the way he made you feel as a person, and what he did and how he went about his stuff. I got an opportunity to watch a young coach. He was 28, 29 when he was my head coach, about the same age I was when I got to Orchard View, and watch him around his family. That was important to me. That was a big thing I learned, watching him with his kids. And just his character, you know, and the impact he made in people's lives. So that was big to me. That's one area that I've really taken from him, and that I try to focus on, being a man of character. And, you know, I'm not perfect by any means, but I think we have a big job as high school football coaches, and I think it makes a huge impact.
Now, Granville is also really successful with Irv Sigler III. running the things. I remember when I was here at WCET with whatever stint that was. I think it was my first stint. And Andrew Hawken was one of the running backs, played at Michigan State. And it seemed like Granville was always on the up and up. And then me being a Jenison guy, they hired Coach Sigler one of the years. And I was just like, there's a bulldog running the Wildcats. Now, to me, it was a little bit different, but I understand how the game works and things like that. I also thought that he also got a raw deal at Jenison, and that's just completely different. But I know things have changed over the years since I left. I don't always agree with them, but the game of football is, I don't want to say it's always been the same, but if you get players to do what you want to do and they listen, they buy in the system, you'll be very successful. I mean, I think it's a pretty fair statement.
Yeah, I mean, every system that's out there works, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, it wouldn't be out there and people wouldn't continue to run it. So it's getting kids to buy in. It's getting kids to believe in you, getting kids to show up and put in the kind of work that you need them to do. And once they buy in and trust you, then they'll go out and execute your system. If they're not questioning your system, you have to be able to sell stuff. And you have to sell your system to the kids to get them to buy in. So, great salesman, great Tony Tanis. That guy could sell you anything, and
Winner
he gets people
everywhere.
to buy in. Exactly, because he gets people to buy in. And he has a system. And he's coached it for a long time, and he knows all the answers. You got to know how to fix your stuff when it breaks. That's the big thing.
Few minutes remaining. Two-a-days, obviously, they come up first week of August or so, whenever, depends on when the season falls with Labor Day and all that good stuff. Do you believe in two-a-days? And I guess the morning, less activity, more activity, or afternoon, less activity, more activity?
So my coaching staff are 9 to 5 guys mainly. So we have to go in the afternoon pretty much after 4:30.
Okay.
So that kind of limits us a little bit there. Do I believe in two-a-days? We've never been a big hitting program since I got there. Spending probably coming from more of a college background. When I got there. And we've always been hitting 2 days a week. Now they've made that mandatory. You can only hit 2 days a week. So we try to just be smart, constantly research and find the best methods, and keep our kids healthy and keep them safe, and keep them fresh. So 2-a-days. I think it kind of builds a toughness, but we work hard year round. So hopefully we don't need 2-a-days to make us tough.
Now, staying with the same concept, not two-a-days, but two-way players. How many of those do you have on your team?
So that's something we try to go away from last year. A little bit.
Because you talk about keeping players fresh.
Yep, and I believe in it, and I thought it was going to be good, but there came a point in the season last year where we ended up having to get the best players on the field, so we started playing more two-way guys. So this year we'll probably play more two-way guys again. We're going to play the best kids, and if we got two kids that are about equal, obviously, and one starts on one side of the ball and the other one doesn't, we'll put the other kid there, to stay a little bit fresher, but we're going to try to find the best kids and win.
Couple minutes remaining. Anything that I left out that you want to bring up?
No, I think, we've talked a lot about me, but, I'm just really blessed and fortunate to coach where I coach. I love the kids. I love our community. It is blue collar. I'm surrounded by great people. It's changed a lot since I've been there with the leadership at the top, and I think a lot of things are moving in the right direction. So, we enjoy the process every day, and we try to get after it, and I got great kids, and I got a great family and very supportive wife that allows me to do what I love and sacrifice a lot.
Do you have a daily message for your team?
A daily message? Event plus response equals outcome. That's kind of what we're hanging our hat on right now, okay. And teaching those kids to respond. So, we try to incorporate that in, and, our motto for this year is prove it. So it's got the OV in it, obviously. So we talk about proving it. I feel like I have a lot to prove. I feel like each one of those kids has a lot to prove. Our coaches, I feel like as a community, we have a lot to prove. 3-6 is not good enough, never will be good enough. And we're excited. We're excited for the challenge that this season has for us.
Joe Tanis, the head football coach of Muskegon Orchard View, thank you for making the trek down here, joining me right here In the Zone across West Michigan. Best of luck to you, and I know we'll be sitting there talking and probably in each other's ears like we normally are during football season, so I appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me, Casey. I really appreciate the opportunity to come on here, and I look forward to hopefully making up to the UP sometime and catching up with you and the family. So. All
right, Joe Tanis joins us right here on In the Zone across West Michigan. Thanks for joining us. That is our show this week. In the next few weeks, you'll see some more episodes, and you'll get to see me almost literally soil myself going 157 miles an hour across the Indianapolis Speedway. We'll air that as we get close to Memorial Day and the 100th running of the Indianapolis 500. Until next time, I'm Casey Ford. I'd like to thank Joe Tanis once again. You've been watching In the Zone across West Michigan right here on WCET-TV.